Welcome to an episode of Subconscious Realms. I'm your host, General Lee, and for tonight, we welcome back one of the most fascinating returning guests, period. Seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host and creator of Hermes Risen and DJ Elliot YouTube channel, Debbie. Now then, Debbie.
Nice to see you again, General Lee.
Yes, it's not been too long, but it's been too long, if you know what I mean. I've missed talking to you, Debbie, and I'm looking forward to this more than anything, because I am led to believe you've just released your new book.
I have, yes.
Exercising Witches, which I am beyond intrigued there.
When we finish up, we'll have to sort out me sending you a copy.
Oh, nice one. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is it. I have a copy of it here. I've just bought it out. It's only a week and a bit old. I bought it out of Beltane. It's a fiction story, as all mine are, but they're all have a theological or a magical theme to them, because sometimes it's easier to put across ideas in fiction, I think. So
yeah, I get you.
People are going to be straight away exercising witches. It's not about exercising all witches. There's good and bad witches in everything. There's good and bad Christians, there's good and bad Muslims, there's good and bad clowns.
Yeah.
So you know, this is just a book about a guy who is a Christian exorcist who can see the demons that sit on or attach to people. He can see them. So he's able to exorcise demons from, or the demonics from people. And so this story is all about how he can do that, what the theological implications of that is upon somebody. And I'm writing a second book at the moment using the same character. You know, I'm quite pleased this took off quite well in the first week, so hopefully it'll continue that way. People like the character and the idea of the story. And in this book, I've done it as that he's been asked by the local police force to come and understand how these two witches, they've called them, because these women always go in disguise as witches and go and rob places like banks and off licenses and things to get money and using a wand. And you know, it's got a lot to do with mesmerism and a lot to do with hypnosis and that kind of thing. I hope that I like to think of it as a good fun read, and a thrilling kind of tale, but with some very important implications written into it.
I love the sound of it, Debbie. Is it similar to like sort of character of like Matthew Hopkins, that kind of Witchfinder General?
He's not as awful as that man, because that man went out with a hatred, that guy. My character is called Saul Pilkenhorn. He's a much more compassionate and understanding person. He isn't out to condemn anybody, but he finds mysteries like this intriguing. You know, why do people do this kind of thing? How do people develop themselves in certain ways? But because he can see the demonics on people, he realizes that a lot of the bad things that people do is the temptation put to them by these demonics. Whereas Hopkins, back in the when was he, 1700s or something?
Yes.
I think himself, he was perhaps a bit demonic. He loved pain. He loved hurting all them women that he went after. And you know, in England, because he was mainly in England, he was a witch hunter. He had the women hung rather than set on fire or burnt at the stake like they were in Europe. But sometimes some people go on a bit of a zealot kind of zealous about what they believe in. And he was, you know, obviously a Christian, coming from the Christian faith, because that's who he worked for. But some people go too far with it, you know, they just forget what Christ's message is of kindness, forgiveness, compassion. And he went the other way of, I've got to get all these women that are dabbling with the devils and demons and destroy them all.
Yeah, I think he was more like egotistic than anything.
And he got done for witchcraft in the end.
Yeah.
Allegedly, yes. He died very young. I know there's the Vincent Price movie, but was it Vincent Price?
Yes, Vincent Price, yeah.
Oh, yeah, played him. And he obviously was a lot older than him. So everybody has in their mind this old man. But Hopkins was dead by the age of 27. So he was a young guy when he went out doing all this.
Yeah.
Probably felt he had to prove himself, felt he had to do something for his faith.
Yeah. It's like anything, isn't it, Debbie? It's like the mindset of certain people. It's just, it's why society is upside down, just because of how people are. You know, if we could all, excuse me, if we could all think alike and, you know, come as one, as we should, it would be different, but it's not.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. One love for all, it should be.
It should be. I mean, we're constantly, me, you, everybody in this community, we're constantly dodging the deep state, and you know,
yep.
it's.
I had a real interesting conversation with someone this week who was saying to me, "I just don't understand why your channel's not more popular." When it's not you, I wish I thought, you know, I'm not taking that from an egotistical point of view, but I noticed a lot of people that do this kind of work don't have the promotion from, say, for example, with YouTube and such like that we should be, because we're like trying to do light work, trying to bring people to understand themselves, a conscious arising, a conscious waking up, a conscious awareness. And he was telling me about this writer. You might have heard of him, called John C. Lilly.
John C. Lilly. I'm not sure.
John C. Lilly, yes, he's from the last century. I think he died recently, but he wrote all these books about how he believes an entity a dark entity can get into people's minds, and this entity, and I'm just going to say he for it, the entity isn't it, managed to convince people, persuade people to get along onto the computer way of building things, because this entity realized that if it could get into a computer and take over, you know, this could be the coming of AI, who knows, but this entity seems able to connect with humanity through the computer, through digital ways. So maybe it's been influencing all these people that have created the computer over the last century or so. And I find it quite interesting that a lot of people that are involved with the rise and the making of the computer and in the intellectual capacity of going from analog to digital, many of them are involved in rather odd societies, quite magical ones, some of them.
Yeah. I mean, it almost sounds like slightly leaning towards Hermetic.
Mm-hmm. Well, it could be Araman. Well, Steiner would say Araman is coming through the computer. Araman will try to get us addicted to these kind of technologies, because then we're caught up in this technological world. You see people all the time stuck on their phones, playing on their laptops. And I was talking to you before we started recording. I've had a break from that for the last week and a bit, and it's been, you know,
has that helped?
Well, in the mornings, I keep thinking, I must keep going on and check my social media. And it's like it's been more intense since I've not been doing, I still have to use my phone, obviously. And sometimes I'm sitting there doing reading or whatever, and I'm like, maybe I should just see what's going on YouTube. And I'm like, where's these thoughts coming from? And they're trying to make me switch on my laptop. And it is addictive, isn't it? And what better way to capture humanity than by getting us entranced in technology like this? And I know I'm not the first to come out of this idea. Lots of people discuss this, but I'm beginning to see that more and more people have been discussing it over the last 50, 60 years. But they seem to be like, I'd never heard of this John C. Lilly, and it sounds like you haven't. And it's like,
no, me neither.
Writing loads of books on this. And this is what my friend was saying, that if that entity is already in the computers and the algorithms, it's not going to want to have people like us being promoted, because we're the ones that are telling people to wake up and find the light and, you know, don't have your computer on all the time and things like that. So it probably wouldn't want to promote our kind of work, would it?
No, definitely not. This is it though. All we can do is, you know, um, like I said before, be as one. Work together. But it's not as easy as that, is it?
No.
There's a lot of egos and a lot of clashes, and it shouldn't be like that. But unfortunately, it is.
Well, I did go and investigate all this when I did turn my computer on after my friend had been saying about this to me, and he was showing me, and I realised that there's channels that get hundreds and thousands of views on YouTube, or other platforms are available, but it's mainly YouTube, isn't it? And then they're not really spiritual or enlightening. It's mainly things about what you've watched on TV, how to put your makeup on,
Yeah.
Things like that. Things that aren't very, they're working on the ego, or working on the how to make sure you still stay sat in front of your computer because you're watching some review about the latest movie, which encourages you to go and watch the latest movie, or binge watch the latest box set, rather than go and work on yourself. And they do get hundreds of thousands of views. I understand music gets millions. Okay, everybody, when I was a teenager, I loved my music, and that's all I ever used to listen to, and wasn't interested in anything else. So I understand how pop music gets millions.
Yeah.
But then when I look at all the channels that I like, and probably ones that you like and your viewers like, that are about development, or whether it's about magical development of yourself and transformation and such like, not many of them have hundreds of thousands of views. Most of them are in the 40s and 50s thousands.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky. And then that's normally through continuous promotion of yourself, which is hard work to do. But you see the algorithms, I keep getting shown on YouTube the same old stuff. And they're normally the ones like, now I've forgotten his name, but, like the famous Deepak Chopra and people like that. It's like it's trying to show me I think the ones that have been taken over side of light work, rather than the ones that I think are true light workers that are really trying to help the viewer.
Yeah.
And it's not just on an ego base for them. Look at me with my channel.
Yeah. That you hit the nail on the head there, Deborah. I think it's just so bizarre. Like some of these channels, how they've got like so many thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers, and pardon me French here, but the shit. They're just not. It's just not. There's nothing intriguing for me anyway. There's nothing that like
stuff they take in. They like being told what to think. They like to be. Also, they all copy and imitate each other. And I'm grateful.
Exactly.
I'm not like that, and I like to think for myself.
Yeah, I think that's why I like when me and you do cover anything, because it's something different. And to me, there's far too many podcasts out there, and they're just copying each other. And what's the point? It's your podcast. Do your own thing. Have your own thoughts. Cover your own subjects, as obscure as they can be. I know it's not easy, but it's achievable. You just got to find the right guest. I mean, like, you're British, you've got a golden ticket from me any day. and this is it. There's for me, there's not enough British podcasts out there that are to me so appealing. Like when I found you, it was like finding a golden ticket. You know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. You're right. There is a lot, and I know other British YouTubers who are also struggling to be noticed, and I think they're doing very valuable work, very conscience awakening and consciousness awakening work, but they don't seem to be being promoted. And then it says on YouTube how to make your you know, it gives suggestions, silly suggestions, like, you know, change your titles, make your thumbnail more thrilling and exciting. And it's like, I don't think that's what attracts people. People just follow what everybody else is following. And so if you're not being shared and liked by others, they don't know about you. I'm not saying that people need to share and like my work, but it does seem to be a trend. It's a trend, isn't it? You know, oh, I watch that, so they have to watch that. Where I like to think I've got a quality audience compared to a quantity. I don't need hundreds and thousands of people to watch. Now, I'd rather have people that actually want to work on themselves and transform themselves to become the better person that they can be, and then put that out there to the world.
That's why I love your mindset, Debbie. You know, it's not about numbers. I mean, it's like me. I would rather have one solid listener than 1,000 of bullshit listeners. Pardon me French, but do you know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't want people wasting my time. Not that it does waste my time, because I don't really interact with many people, I suppose. But you know, definitely I get the odd troll now and then, and I try and engage with them to find out why are they being like that. And then most of the time they turn out to be a nobody anyway, or one of them what are they called, like fake accounts. They're not a real person. So it's like the AI
the bots,
out trolls that are not real, which makes me even more suspicious that this entity is trying to bring me down, and I'm not going to let it.
It's this is why society is like it is. Backwards, upside down, whatever way you want to look at it. But
it is quite upside down, isn't it? A lot of people things. We still have too many people with not enough food on their plates, too many people that don't have a home. You know, everything's made to be as difficult to live in as possible, which is such an illogical way to live that makes you think this is not humane. So maybe there isn't a humane person running all this, or a humanity group.
I mean, like, it's with you saying that, I think, like, lately, I know for myself, and you know from my circumstances, it just seems so wrong. This country, it's not the Britain we know. It's not the Britain I know. Growing up, it's completely changed, and changed not for the good.
But that's because the wrong kind of people are out there showing people how to live. And I know this is going to sound all woo-woo, but I strongly believe in that if we can work on ourselves to become the best person we are, okay, we understand that out there there's craziness going on, but we learn how to handle it. We learn how to be impartial. We can go out there, perhaps make an influence, help other people realize that they can wake up, that there's not a problem with waking up. It's not taboo to wake up. You don't have to be part of the system, like the the cabal system. There's a way of being free of it all, and to gain back your own sovereignty. And if you can get that yourself, other people hopefully would follow suit or follow suit. We all try and because we are imitators, but we also need someone like a leader. And I did have someone a few weeks ago saying to me, why don't we have some light being leader to show us the way? I just think that at the moment it's for the individual to try and influence themselves, and then hopefully influence other people. It's like a small moving out across the world. I think Steiner says we needed, if we had 50 people that were woken up, that were enlightened, we could change the world. And Gurdjieff says 200. I wonder now what that number would be. But as we know, many of the people that do wake up and try and change the world, they get targeted.
Yeah, that's true. That is unfortunately true. Anyway, Debbie, the history of the Golden Dawn. Now, and before you start, you know about I've started an additional podcast with my friend Lux from Lux Rising. He spent 10 years in the Golden Dawn, so I would like more than anything for us three to cover in more depth the Golden Dawn. Obviously, you and Lux having a conversation would be mind blowing. But the history for now, unleash.
I thought, because Lux obviously is a modern day, was involved in it in the modern day, and it has changed over the last century. And I find the history of how it started very interesting. You know, like it began in the late 1800s, and that was a time when there was a lot of groups starting up. We had Theosophy started by Madame Helena Blavatsky going on. We had various other, I wouldn't say they were magical orders. Oh yeah, maybe they were, but secret societies were going on. There was a big renaissance in Rosicrucianism, which had a big impact on the Golden Dawn.
Yeah.
But the three guys that started it was, let me just, because I always like to get their names right. I've just got them,
Okay.
got them down here. William Wynne Westcott, William Robert Woodman, and Samuel Liddell McGregor Mathers. And these three were actually members of, well, definitely Westcott and Woodman were members of the Theosophical Society. So they were already involved in the theosophical side of things, and the motto for the Theosophical Society is there is no religion higher than truth. So they were trying to find what the truth is in who we are, who humanity is, what the earth is, what divinities created it. You know, theosophy covers such a wide range. But Westcott and Woodman wanted to go a bit deeper than that and looking to the more of the esoteric side of things. But they were Christians as well, where Blavatsky was beginning to take theosophy on an Eastern path. She was very into India and the way of Buddha and the way of the Indian gurus that were out there.
Would that be like the tantric side of things?
Yes, things like that. I don't know if they would have used the word tantric then, but there was not just theosophy, there was many groups trying to bring the East and West together because the East had suddenly been discovered. Ancient Egypt was so popular at that time as well because of all the archaeology was going on. So this was before Tutankhamun was discovered, but still there was, especially in Britain and France, lots of Egyptian artifacts being brought back to Britain and France, which was just the general public loved. They were just taken in by it all. It was just fantastic to see. It was like a great Egyptian awakening. Everybody wanted to be part of the Egyptian mysteries because nobody really understood what they were about. And I still don't think we really understand what the ancient Egyptians were doing with their pyramids and their temples and such like. There's a lot of speculation and the academics say one thing, but I think they're missing out a lot on the spiritual side of what the Egyptians were doing. But all this was like a kind of awakening for a lot of people of, well, what else is there to do with faith and religion? And, it's very popular to be into the Egyptian arts or dress up, when you go to parties in Egyptian art wear and such like. And we've got also Darwinism had occurred. So there was all that being thrown at people that, there was no God. Though Darwin never said that. Darwin's book's actually out to prove that there is a God, but people have just turned it around within a few years. Well, Darwin's proving that we're not born from Adam and Eve, but Darwin was trying to prove that evolution was created by a God. So there was a lot of confusion in that kind of thing, but also a freedom for people to go and study and learn many, many different ideas and, let's say, magical ways. And Westcott knew a man that ran a bookshop who came across a set of papers that were written in such a way that they were obviously part of a magical order from the past, and they gave rituals and rites. And Westcott was given these. So there is speculation as to how he got them. Some people say they were mysteriously sent to him. A friend of mine says, no, he got them from this bookshop. This man gave them to him because he didn't understand them. And so, and Westcott was quite well known for looking at that kind of work. But these strange papers, they were kind of encouraging someone to start this magical order. So that's what Westcott did with Woodman and Samuel Mathers. And they called it the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And Hermeticism can be seen in many different ways, but I know a lot of people think it was a secret teaching. And Hermeticism, it also the word hermit comes from it. So it would have been a secret teaching that someone would have gone and learned and hidden away and worked upon themselves and then brought it out into the world. You know, we all like to retreat now and then and work on our philosophies of what life's about and such like, don't we?
Yeah.
But here's given these wonderful papers and paperwork of how to start this magical order. And it also gave them the rituals of how to contact the secret chiefs. And these
secret chiefs.
Yeah, the secret chiefs who nobody ever really met, but they could contact through these rituals and magical ways. And these
would they be like sort of like some sort of god or gods?
I don't think they were gods. I think they were just perhaps maybe humans in a previous life that had managed to develop themselves and break free so they could get onto the other spiritual planes. I think they were probably more like that, or maybe that's what Westcott and Mathers and such like would have liked them to have been. Other people say they're just a figment of people's imagination. And then there's another realm of thought of that these secret chiefs are actually your higher self. When you've worked through these rituals, you can then contact your higher self or your higher guardian angel, and that you can then interact with that. And obviously your higher guardian angel is going to have a more thorough understanding of how the whole cosmos and the whole universe works. So do you get what I mean by that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But from the Golden Dawn point of view, I think they believed they were some kind of maybe a god, like maybe a semi-god, more like a demigod or something, but not the god, because their criteria was you had to believe in a god above all gods, the source of all, who was sort of, that god is unattainable to get to, because that god's given us free will to carry on this planet. God, the one god, the god above all gods, doesn't really interfere with us because we've been given free will to get on with things. But there is a hierarchy. The demigods, the angels, the archangels, our own higher guardian angel, we can talk to, we can contact and have contact with and make communication and learn from.
I think that's what we might need now, is somebody to like guide, because it just seems like we're pissing in the wind sometimes.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that, but that's kind of like going back to when my friend was saying about where is our spiritual leader. I think there's lots of spiritual leaders out there, but whether they've got an agenda for themselves or not, I don't know. I'd like to think that most spiritual leaders are there to try and help humanity to evolve upwards. And I strongly, when I talk to people about this and on my YouTube channel, we need to learn discernment. We need to be able to understand how people work, because then we'll be able to figure out if someone is a charlatan or is a true person or true teacher who wants to work with you to help humanity and the planet evolve. And it's not just out for, I want 15% of your wages if you join my magical order.
That's what, I think that's the problem, isn't it, Deborah? Is, it just seems as if money is the agenda. And don't get me wrong, it's good to have money, but it's not as important as it is led to be. Because the more you get, the more you spend.
Yep. And also, we've been brought up to believe that money is a status symbol. The more money you have, then we should be looking up at that person, or they have, which is not true. As we all know, I'm sure you've met people that have had a bit of money in their pocket. They just turn into egotistical idiots, really, and fools and dickheads, many of them. But then there are people out there that have money that aren't like that, that understand that there's more to life. than money, but they want to use their money in an altruistic way and try to give back. But there's also money that people that use money to blackmail, obviously, and bribe their way through life. You know, I've met a few rich people in my life, and they say what they like, and I think it's because they've got money, they think they can get away with anything. And that we all respect them and let them get away with it because they've got so much money. You know, there's that old adage, money makes the world go round, but I think that's from a secular point of view. From a spiritual point of view, you know, compassionate love makes the world go round. Unconditional love makes the world go round.
Yeah, that's true.
But sadly, money is the currency that gets us what we need to pay the rent, the bills and such like. So we do need it. But it still seems to be an unfair system. I still think money was created by the devil. When Adam and Eve were thrown out of Eden, they weren't given a few pounds by God, were they, to say, look, here, this is to help you on your way. You know, there was no money. And, you know, I truly think money was created by the dark forces to cause friction, to cause jealousy, to cause classes, to make people treat each other in different ways. Because if you've got money, you're treated differently. And when you haven't got money, you're treated in another way.
Yeah, to judge, to cause a divide.
Mm.
And that's what it does.
But what I do find funny is that when I go to, let's say, witchy shops these days, the amount of money spells that are out there, and I've never known a rich magician. I've never known a rich witch. So I really don't know if them spells work or not. I've never tried them, so, you know, but I do try and keep a feng shui coin in my purse, and it seems to, you know, this is my advice to people. If you can get a feng shui purse, it helps you. You won't get rich with it, but it seems to always make sure you've got enough money to get by for the week.
Oh, that's good. Like a sort of like balance.
Yeah, it's bringing to you what you need.
Yeah.
So pop down your local Chinese area and go and get a couple of feng shui coins and put them in your pocket, Lee. They're very cheap. They normally sell them for just £1.
I don't think we've got all that. Do you know what nearest Chinatown to is in Manchester?
Oh, right.
Okay. Yeah, we've not. There's a shop in town, but I think they just sell noodles and rice.
Oh, well, if you're next in there, maybe just say, do you know where I can get some feng shui coins?
Yeah.
Because like attracts like.
Yes.
I do see how millionaires get more money because they've already got that money in them. You know, some millionaires lose all their money, but then suddenly they make money again. And with us poorer people, we haven't got that huge amount of money out there to attract other large amounts of money. We just attract what we've already got. And when you've got nothing, that's not going to attract anything. And it's very hard.
I get you, Debbie. Yeah. Oh.
So that's my little magical quote for the day, or my magical advice for everyone: get a feng shui coin. But going back to the Golden Dawn, there is another idea that that paperwork came from a lady called Fräulein Sprengel, who lived in Germany, and that she sent them to Westcott because she was trying to encourage him to start this Golden Order. But there's still speculation about whether she really existed, or maybe she was a made-up person by somebody who could see that Westcott was maybe gullible and would believe in this kind of thing. Because, you know, if you're going to the Theosophical Society, you're believing in things that are out of this world. So things like that happening would encourage him to look into this. So, and you know, how would you feel suddenly these magical papers arrived at your doorstep and went, if you start this order and follow these rites?
Yeah. Sounds like a bit of a psyop from back in the day, potentially.
Could be, it could all be motivated by some kind of dark forces that wanted them to open the gate to the portal of hell. But thankfully, these were the original Golden Dawn members, were all Christian and believers in good gods, if they, from their pagan side as well, they believed in, they didn't go around calling up demons and demonic forces. They were not believers in that. They did not want to do that, and they were very against spiritualism actually at that time, all the seances and things like that. They didn't want to contact dead people. They wanted to contact higher forces. They very much believed in developing the will and understanding the way of the universe, because they thought if you understood, well, and I strongly believe this as well, if you understand how the universe runs scientifically, esoterically, and the whole connection of us with the rest of the hierarchy of the divine, you can then operate yourself better in this cosmos. You would understand what's going on, so you can direct your will in a certain way. And for them, it was more about kind of breaking free of the secular way of life. It hadn't quite gone as materialistic as it is today in our world, but they wanted to contact higher forces, higher ways, so that they could develop themselves to become the best of themselves. But they were also trying to contact or reawaken the old Egyptian rites and the old pagan rites, obviously with a lot of Celtic type people of that time wanted to bring back the old ways of, the Tuatha De Danann and things like that. They believed in the elementals and the other beings that work in the countryside. And they also knew that by doing their rites and their rituals, you're putting that concentration and will into that invocations. And that's quite different from people that just aren't aware of that kind of thing, who are just walking about, thinking they're in control of their lives. We all know most people are being led in certain ways. Nobody's really got control of their life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Do you think that, we're saying like, especially Celtic pantheon, like Cernunnos and that, would they have been, or that have been one of the entities?
What, as in the secret chiefs, or someone they would have tried to contact? Yeah. I think maybe more perhaps the people like W.B. Yeats maybe would have been more into that, because they were very into their British mythology.
Yeah.
I think the original ones, the people like Mathers and such like, were trying to contact more of the Egyptian style. But W.B. Yeats, who was, I wouldn't say he was second generation, because he sort of came in the early 1900s, but him and Maud Gonne, who was also an Irish lady, who was an actress, who got they went very highly involved in the Golden Dawn, because when you're in there, you work your way up through levels. And I think that you could go off to you could go and do an Egyptian mystery level, or you could go and do a Celtic mystery level. But these earlier people like W.B. Yeats, since they were helping the founding of where this was going, they did all the research and would go into trances or meditations and things to try and visualize that. He was W.B. Yeats, for example, was very, very much a visionary. I know most people know him for being the Nobel prize-winning author, but he was very involved in also trying to contact the other side, but not the other side as in dead people, but in the mystical, magical side, lifting the veil, as it were.
Yeah.
They were very into like esoteric philosophy, magical antics. I was going to say then, like scrying in mirrors, scrying in bowls of water, and kind of trying to attempt to meet the secret chief. So it seems to be only those that were at the top of that rung of that hierarchy within the Golden Dawn could do that. When you start out, you're not contacting the secret chiefs. You've got to work your way up through the exercises and the rituals and the levels to the top. So I think they were probably getting involved with people like Coronis, him being part of the Horned God pantheon and Celtic myths. I still wonder if they saw Pan and Coronis as the same person or the same being. I think they believed in chthonic creatures of half man, half other beast. Obviously, the Egyptian gods came across like that, with, you know, human bodies and perhaps bird heads like Horus, or, you know, bull heads like Cernus, not Cernus, Conzo, or was that the monkey one? And then Coronis himself, sometimes he's seen with hooves, isn't he? Sometimes, I'm sure he's sometimes got hooves, but I'm sure he's got.
I believe so, yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, it was all coming back to working with nature and animism. Yeah, they probably were. I think they were. And if you read W.B. Yeats's poetry, it's very mystical anyway, and very trying to get in touch with the old gods, the old pagan ways.
Yeah, it really is fascinating. I think. Do you think things started going quote south when the likes of like Crowley came into things? Uncle Al.
Uncle Al, yeah. Well, Uncle Al tried to take it over, didn't he? But the story of Uncle Al is quite, with Aleister Crowley, is quite humorous in some ways. You know, he obviously felt he was a high initiate, and I think he was one of the few that actually understood how to work with your will, because will is very important in magic. You need to be able to will what you need, what you want, and have that concentration on it. And, you know, there was that they had the him and W.B. Yeats had a bit of a fight and a row, but even before he was fully involved, there was already a bit of a breakup happening in the Golden Dawn. Things were already, as every group does, people were seeing things it in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, Mathers took off to France, and he was very into these Egyptian rite ways of doing it. And W.B. Yeats was staying in Ireland and London, and he was into the Celtic way of doing the rites and such things. And I think really Mathers, because he was in charge, Crowley listened to him because he could see that he would get him up the ladder quicker than W.B. Yeats would. W.B. Yeats, I think, thought that Crowley was a bit of a fool. He definitely didn't like his poetry. But one wonders, would Yeats, I don't know how famous Yeats would have been at that time, because I don't think he'd have been the Nobel Prize winning poet by then, but he would have been a recognised poet. So Crowley probably had him on a bit of a pedestal. And really what happened was Mathers wanted all the Golden Dawn regalia back, and he was living in Paris. Whereas in London, in Hammersmith, because they had a few temples, different temples around the country. You know, there was one called the Isis Urana, one called the Amun-Ra, which I think that might have been the Scottish one. I think the one in London was the Isis Urana.
Right.
So Mathers asked Crowley to go and get all the regalia back. And so one morning, Crowley's decided to go there, chanting magic on the way, because he's psyching himself up for a magical battle and to have all his magical power together. Apparently he was in his cloak and wearing his kilt and carrying a sword. And I believe he had his Horus helmet on. He had this mask of Horus, and perhaps it was over his face, I don't know, but he would have been storming down the Hammersmith Road. I'm sure everybody would have kept out of his way thinking, what the fuck? You know, what is this dude doing? He would have been chanting under his breath, and, you know, he was quite proud to be a magician. He wasn't scared or worried about anything. And he got to Blythe Road. I can't remember the name of the number of the house. I know it's a cafe now, and the Golden Dawn was held above it. It's now a cafe in London.
Oh,
and Crowley stormed in, and he was making his way up the stairs, and W.B. Yeats was at the top of the stairs, and Crowley's coming up from the bottom, throwing incantations at Yeats, and Yeats is throwing incantations back at Crowley. So it's a bit of a magical battle on the stairs. Because in the top floor was where they kept all the temple. Maybe I can go into the temple after I tell you this little bit, because it's very interesting how the temple was set out. So, you know, I think they must have met halfway up the stairs, because they had a bit of a tussle, and someone says that Yeats kicked Crowley down the stairs, which I think probably did happen. And, you know, because Crowley did end up at the bottom of the stairs. Obviously, his ego's a bit pissed off about this, and he's like,
Yeah.
and he storms out of the house. But he went and got a policeman, Crowley did, to arrest W.B. Yeats for assault.
Bottled him up.
Yeah. So he's gone to the police, you know, wanting to put charges against Yeats for assault. So the police have arrested all of them, and it's all ended up in the courts. And this is how it became known publicly about the Golden Dawn, because the courts want all the paperwork, all the rights are revealed, because it's a secret order. Not many people knew about it. You only got introduced to it if you knew somebody and was interested in that kind of thing. It wasn't advertised, you know, like it is today. You know, nobody really knew much about it. So it all came out in the papers. It was a big thing of the day, of like, look at this magical battle going on between, you know, this poet W.B. Yeats and Crowley, and then people are hearing about secret societies, which would have been very new to them all, and it's all in the papers. And that kind of really was the beginning of the downfall of the Golden Dawn from its heyday, really. I think other people came along afterwards and continued it in various ways. But upstairs where the Golden Dawn temple was, it was done out with these special, they've made these like screens. They've made their own temple within inside a room, which was designed in a certain way because it was very much based on Rosicrucianism. And do you know much about Rosicrucianism, Lee? Or the basics?
Not really, no.
So Rosicrucianism started, I think it was like the 1300s. It might be the 1400s. I can't remember the dates properly. But there was a man called Christian Rosenkreuz, or Rosenkreuz, some people say. And this all started in Germany, which is where, strangely enough, this Fräulein Sprengel comes from, who sent Westcott all this paperwork. So these rites were written in a Rosicrucian way. And Christian Rosenkreuz was trying to bring forward a more Christian community, making a more understanding world that followed the Christian principles of kindness to your neighbor. You know, the golden rule: what you do to your neighbor, have done, you know, you must be able to have done to yourself, kind of thing. You know, and then them kind of rules help you to understand that we want to be nice and kind to each other. We should be considerate of each other. We should understand we're all human beings, and we could live in a much better way. And he did a lot of this through setting up these secret societies across, I think it was Bavaria. Anyway, it was in Germany. And obviously the Catholic Church got a bit pissed off with them for doing this, because they're saying that the Catholic Church isn't doing its duty. You know, you're not doing what Christ set forth. We're trying to bring
paedophilia.
Yes, exactly. You know, and things like that, and slaying witches, and, you know, burning witches at the stake, and going forth and just conquering other lands and wiping out other communities. That's not what Christ did. Christ was like, let's welcome everyone, and it was all about, you know, when Christ started, it wasn't just for the Jews, it was for the Gentiles. He was bringing a message to everyone.
Yeah.
But there was something magical about Christian Rosenkreuz. And when he died, he was put into a tomb that was the same design as what this temple is in the Golden Dawn, upstairs of their temple, and what they do in all their temples. And his grave apparently was lost over time, but when it was discovered, or Rosicrucians came to it 100 years later, he was still dead, obviously, but he hadn't decayed. So there was this magical quality about this room and about him, which is also what attracts a lot of secret societies about Rosicrucianism. When Rosicrucianism was persecuted in its original heyday, it went underground, like most groups like that did. You know, like the Cathars went underground when they were persecuted by the Catholic Church and such like. So it was still continuing and still trying to put out its message to people. So the Golden Dawn originally was very Rosicrucian led. Yeah. Which is why you had to be a Christian when you joined it, or have a belief in Christ and a God. And I think that has changed over time. When we do the show with Lux, we can hopefully discuss that more, because I'd be interested to hear more about what's going on in the modern day side of things. Brilliant. And then there's different Golden Dawns now. Obviously, there's some that go down the Ptolemaic rites of Crowley, others that follow the original Mathers and his wife Mina Mathers and such like. So there's many different Golden Dawns these days. But I just thought you'd be, be interested for your viewers, since you're hoping to do this in the future, of what the actual original history was. And I think it's quite important to also know that it started in the year 1888, which is quite a magical year anyway, especially even numerologically. I can't seem to speak tonight, sorry, through numbers and geometry and secret geometry. That's a very magical year of starting things off, a new cycle. Have you ever been asked to join it?
Not of the Golden Dawn. No. You know something, Deborah? I don't think I've got the brains to join anything like that.
I don't think you need brains. I think you need faith.
Yeah, I mean, I with me, it's just everything is just fascinating. It's like when I cross paths with, like I've crossed paths with you. I believe that I've crossed paths with you for a reason, and especially with, as I know how many episodes we've done together, you are a true wealth of knowledge. You're not just somebody that can read a book and splurt it out from a book while you're talking to me. You're not even reading a book. This is just coming from your head, and this is what makes you so different than most other people. And I think that's why.
Make sure I remember people's names properly and things like that.
That's why, for me, you're a true gift to this community, and this is what we need: people like-minded people coming together. Because when we're together, it's just completely different. The conversations, everything about it is completely different. But I'm not clever enough to join the Golden Dawn.
Well, I think what I like to think, if maybe we don't need to join a magical society. Instead, we should be working on the magic on ourselves. We don't necessarily need to go and cast a spell or anything, but it is a good thing, I think, to go and find, even if it's in the countryside, go and sit down, center yourself, which is what the Golden Dawn were doing. Okay, they put their rituals and their rites into it because it helped their concentration and helps you develop your will. But we can still do this kind of thing on our own, just by going for a sit down in the country, sit under a tree. Most enlightenment comes from under the tree. That's how Buddha became enlightened, sitting under a tree, and various other people whose names escape me at the moment that have had, well, Isaac Newton, he was sitting under the tree when he worked out gravity. Though I did reread some of Isaac Newton the other day, and he actually doesn't say it's a fact of gravity. He uses the word suppose in that quite a lot. He supposes if an apple falls from a tree, that's because there's a force. He doesn't say it's a fact. But people forget these little words like suppose.
Yeah.
It's like that.
I think it's.
Okay, go on,
No, just like you've just gone through the history of the Golden Dawn. Then I think it's brilliant. It's like an introduction to what we'll carry on with subconscious rising when we bring Lux into it, and he'll take us to like the more modern side of things. Because I think the conversation between you and our Lux will just be extraordinary.
Well, maybe if people had some questions from this that me and him can discuss, could leave them with you. We might have got some questions that people would want to take in a certain direction.
That would be brilliant,
because whether or not you believe that the Golden Dawn people themselves were actually doing magic doesn't matter. They believe they were, and that's one of the most important things in any of our developments, is what we believe we can do. And like what we were saying at the beginning of this show, people don't have enough faith in themselves because they're too busy wanting to copy other people or don't want to be seen as foolish, which is why mainstream laughs and ridicules people like ourselves because they just don't get it. They just don't understand what we're doing, and they don't see, because it's such a rational world nowadays. They want everything to be in rational terms, where belief and magic in all forms is not rational.
Yeah.
Well, it is when you learn how the universe works and the cosmos works, but that's part of your studying when you're doing this kind of work. There are cosmic
Yeah.
laws out there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But you know, just before you go, Debbie, please don't go anywhere. I've got to ask you something, but I'll wait till we stop recording first because I just don't know how to pronounce it anyway. But I think I'll send you it as a link, and then I'll explain it to you when we speak. But before you go anywhere, please plug your new book again.
Okay, my new book is Exercising Witches. I had to go through Amazon with this one. It's just easier these days at the moment. So it's available as an ebook and a paperback book. And I hope people would enjoy it, perhaps get it for your summer holidays and go and read it on the beach. Or just, you know, keep books alive, keep small press alive, keep us small authors going. And
yeah, for sure.
If you want to understand the idea of how demonics come to us, this book explains it in a fictional way.
Yeah, I cannot wait to read it myself, Debbie.
I'm going to send you a copy.
Oh, thank you, dear. But as always, it is just beyond fascinating speaking to you, love. I can't wait till we speak again. I'm going to stop recording now. But thank you, dear. Thank you, lovely. 1 minute.